Blues Moose listeners and viewers from our YouTube channel, we are here, yes, with Greta Van Vliet. And welcome to Holland, because you have a Dutch name. Have the band.
Yeah, this is our first time here, you know. So
the first show of the tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know it's the kickoff of a world tour, Irene, and well, to get in it right away, it's sold out. How does that make you feel, even before the first show?
Well, I'm not sure. We really knew we had a lot of fans here, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really humbling to see that reaction, especially like, you know, across the pond too. And that's
Pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I hope it's not just the name is relatable.
That's what it is. That's the name.
Well, now when I read the name, I thought, oh, that'd be a singer-songwriter, a nice, young, beautiful girl, and then I dated a girl who was called Van Vliet in the early days, but
It might be
no, I heard with the name. I will not go in there now because I know what your name come from. I will blend it in the text in the video. It's an awful funny story. It is, and I'm just glad that you didn't call it Getting Wood.
No kidding, right? Could have been that.
Yeah,
just as easily.
I'm going down to see Getting Wood tonight.
But now Holland, how it is in the birth town of Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. We actually have a town in Michigan called Holland, and it's like it has a real windmill that was completely transported brick by brick, and you can get clogs there.
Which Sam is really interested in getting.
Yeah.
He really wants it.
If I can get a pair of clogs while I'm here.
No.
The tour. Are you also planning to see something of the cities or the towns you're in, or is it too tight schedule?
It's been a real difference between touring in the States, you know, and touring over here. So even this morning we were out in the on the town, you know. So I think it's really, for us, it was really important to see everything we could while we were here for now, and then, you know, we'll be back and hopefully see, because you can't see everything in one visit. There's no way.
No, but if you have such a little bit of feel, and at least in which town you are, or what it looks like, that would be fine. But tonight, first time show. What makes it so special for you? Is there any new stuff you're gonna do on stage, or is it mostly?
It's our first live show actually in a very long time, so we're gonna see how things translate, and it definitely is going to be different.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, because we've been in the studio quite a bit, and so usually when we get out of the studio, we're pretty tight, you know, because we're used to just playing something over and over and over and really getting close together. So it should be really interesting to see how we sound. And hopefully
We're just as curious as the audience.
Well, we say it's like baking pancakes. The first one is always getting thrown away. So you'll probably be the best tomorrow. No, no kidding. The audience will get you through that. Will get you through. We're talking about recording. You released an EP, and it seems to me that was something to give the audience something before you get the real album out. If you have a tour, you have something to sell.
I think we've been working for a while on the full length, you know. It's been 3 months? Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, we're looking at, it's kind of coming to a close, you know. We're kind of wrapping certain things up, and we're really excited to get that out, hopefully, you know, in midsummer or something.
Is there time for songwriting on this tour? Do you plan it, or is it in the tour bus? Hey, I got an idea. Listen.
There's always time for songwriting, even on the stage. That's why when you ask the question, "Is there going to be something new tonight?" It's almost positively, yeah, there'll be, and we won't even see it coming. You know?
I can't tell you how many songs we've actually written during a concert.
Yeah. Now that's another question, because I know some bands are sticking to the set list and even to the length of the song with no improvisation at all. You guys into some improv on stage?
Very much so. I think that's one of our strongest suits. I think, you know, because it's like it was early on, like the philosophy of this started early on. It was like if you go to a show and they're playing the exact same thing that it sounds like on the CD or the record, you could put it in. You might as well just put it in the CD and listen to it, you know. And so it's like, So it's like if we were capable of playing and expanding and toying with things and experimenting during the songs and jamming around, then we would, and I think that we do that quite a bit. So, yeah.
It's always fun for me when that starts to happen because you're all communicating and it's like you get a feel of where everyone's at in the show, and it's cool.
The show's different every night.
A lot of energy comes out of just being innovative on the stage and having fun with each other,
I think you should. Otherwise, it's going to work.
Yeah.
You became a musician to go to work.
What's the point of playing the same song, same way, same
think-
time,
yeah, I
to
think-
click every night?
I think it'd be very boring after a while. I think we'd get pretty bored.
I think I'd be bored the first time we played it.
Yeah. I'm already bored just talking about it.
It's a I'm looking for the proper English word. Sorry for that, but it's a band thing, writing songs. I understood. It's not someone who said it's my song or getting all the credits for it. It's who comes up mostly with the lick and then it evolves. Is that in the studio? I guess if you're brothers, it's easier than.
It could be anybody. I think it's fair to say that it's even, for the most part. I know that a lot of the riffage stuff that initiates a lot the songwriting process is Jake for the most part, but that's not to say that none of us haven't done that. And then of course, once that's happened, it's a free for all as to what else happens to that song,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like whoever brings the structure of the song to the table, it's always up to every individual what they implement into that. So it's like everybody. It's like a song is really made up of four parts and four people. Yeah.
Well, it looks to me if you're brothers, if I was one of the brother on a tour bus, I guess I would kick them out after 3 kilometers because. So yeah, but is there never ever a part of a moment that you say, well, it's my sibling, I kick him out, or don't talk to him for an hour and.
Right. That's how it goes. You just have your space for a bit, and then you come back when you're ready.
I mean, I think we've gotten pretty good at trying to treat each other well because in past discrepancies we've had some issues. We physically fighting each other and
putting a fist in the
You
glass.
love somebody, but
right. I mean, it's because you love them that you beat the hell out of them. That's
Well, it's good that we're boys because we can just get pissed off at each other and probably about 10 minutes later it's fine.
Yep.
I know what you mean. Even for a brand name like Greta Van Vliet. What about the lyrics? I guess they're coming second if you write the song, or
Lyrics probably come last. There's the feel of the song, and then the melody will come, and then it's like, well, what does this feel like? What is the universe telling me this is? What is the song telling me it is? And then it's a reflection on a lot of the time for me it's this human condition or the human elements, the human experience, that kind of thing, and what does that mean? And so I think a lot of fairly philosophical texts probably had something to do with influencing the writing.
well, as I told by a lot of people, is writing a song is like writing a book. It has to have a beginning, a middle, and the end, and you have something to tell about.
Well, not all of it has to be so deep too. Like Safari or Highway isn't.
They don't ask any philosophical questions that will make you question what you're doing and make you question your ways of life. Let's say that.
Yeah, well, that's, like the whole thing. Those are kind of more of that real blues-based material, where it was kind of talking about your woman and it was more blues roots oriented, Yeah.
Well, I think if you tell what you're excited about, but some people have always political agendas or experiences, like the Sam Cooke song you did was in the end was a political song.
It was, it's about oppression, I think, and that for me is a broad subject and something that should be talked about,
If you give a percentage of How many blues is still in Greta Van Vliet at this moment?
Quite a bit. Oh yeah, I think it's still right at the heart of the whole thing, you know.
Yeah, I think that be mainly listening to all the blues records growing up and like having that influence. I think that was the very first time that we all connected musically is through the blues. So I think that's kind of at the center point of everything that we do, and it's always really blues influenced still.
Yeah, that was one of those strange things that even us listening to the blues, obviously, we're just like, you know, we didn't come from a broken sort of, you know, we didn't.
You never have to pick cotton.
We didn't come from any of that, but we can connect with it as people. I think that's part of what makes the blues so axiomatic, is that anybody can feel the blues, experience the blues, and listen to the blues and know what that means, you know.
But a lot of people will say, isn't the blues tremendously upsetting to listen to? And you think about it, and I never thought about it as something that's upsetting to listen to. I think of it as a triumph of an entire culture and a beautiful art that's come forth and all that. And it's kind of a win in the whole grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, it came early on, and I mean, you ask about what kind of like the blues influence in the band, and if you're really listening to a lot of that, what we get out of a lot of the blues is they're singing about freedom, you know, about all of that. And so I guess there's a lot of that in our music too. I think it's about freedom.
Blues is always about hope, and hope is always uplifting. So they they feel depressed, but they didn't want to feel depressed. That's why they sang. One of the reasons before that, of course. The good thing is, and that's why we talked earlier in the introduction of the interview, we are not blues Nazis. We not stick in the 50s or the 30s or the 60s or whatever. We like when people, and obviously it's very obvious in your kind of music that you picked it up somewhere a couple of years ago. By the time we heard it for the first time, they picked it up from somebody else, and you're doing your own stuff with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's always somebody's going to have to pick up from where it left off and evolve with it, you know.
All artists.
Yeah.
And I bet there were a bunch of young white kids interpreting the blues.
You wonder where that first song or that first melody came from, or you know the ancient storytellers, and it makes you think who was the first person inspired by, and where did that come from? Were they inspired by a story and it just evolved from there?
Well, my opinion is they didn't have television, though, so you have to tell each other. Make a rock painting, or I don't know. But I guess entertaining people is of all ages.
It's just that need that in the human soul to make art. You know, whether it's painting on a wall or if it's painting on canvas.
Yeah, there's like an innate, primal urge to tell a story, you know, or to share the love of the wonderment of the universe and things like that, and to kind of be skeptical, maybe more like, what's the word, maybe more appropriate, it's being interested, intrigued by the not seen, you know.
How's it the build-up of your audience? Is it mostly youngsters, or is it still the people who like the old geezers from the 60s and the 70s, like us, tell it like it is?
It's everybody, you know. That's why I think that this is a really interesting thing, that it's just kind of, well, it is for everybody, you know, and to see everybody show up, you know. I mean, it'll be like young kids who their parents bring, you know, or some teenagers who find it for themselves, and then of course it'll be like the whole family, you know. It'll be like the kids and their parents, and then their parents' showing up, and it's funny because the younger ones are in the front, and it'll go back, you know.
Yeah, it's like that great thing about a unity, or that experience when you see an audience, but they're also varying ages, and it's like you see all of these people together, all united by music, and all different ages, and it's really cool to see that.
Well, we love it because there's hope. Yeah. There's hope for decent music. There's hope for that not people show up with a briefcase with an USB stick and then call it music.
Yeah, no kidding.
So our old-fashioned guitar work and singing. A couple of questions about the instruments. Are you what do you call it, guitar buffs, that you're real into the gear, you know. If you mostly want to play a Gibson 59 Sunburst.
Somewhat. I think that we're interested in that. I mean, it's
Pedals.
yeah, it's interesting. And as a guitarist, I don't use too many pedals because I don't like it to be something of a distraction from my ability to play.
Let's just say
you
this:
know?
how many pedals did Freddie King use?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like that too. It's like Sam said this before we started the interview, but it's not the guitar; it's the guitar. So it's like
The best documentary I've ever seen was It Might Get Loud.
yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. It's like with Jack White and all that too. It's like it's not necessarily the instrument. At the very beginning of that, he was setting up, you know, just a board, a nail, a string, and a pickup, and just use a bottle as a slide, and it sounded awesome. You know, it's like that's the sheer emotion through it. So I think we focus on some of the gear and stuff. It's always been fascinating.
Yeah.
But more of what sounds interesting. You know, anything that can really kind of take shape and be different than just an average guitar.
Yeah, gear's fascinating for sure because it really does shape your tone, you know, from your fingers or whatever, and it brings it into something pretty unique. And I always try to pull myself out of the gear hole a little bit because once you get too deep, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of like you forget that it's not the gear that's really making that emotion. It's you.
Right. And then you've got the edge, and that it might get loud.
Yeah.
It was very much the opposite. It was very gear buff and just all pedals and this massive.
And almost double.
Yeah.
All this. If something broke me as a spare set.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
What's cool is we just came from the studio too, so we've had a lot of time to kind of experiment with tones and
Yeah.
Lots of snare drums.
I can imagine that you experiment with tones.
lots of gear.
Yeah, and lots of pedals. I use pedals in the studio quite a bit just to play around with different tones and stuff, but not live as much.
And then for you, of course, that's one of the things that if you hear the song, it's always in front as your vocals.
Yeah.
Is that something you train on, or you're saying I'm still convinced that I'm getting more even than I can do now?
Yeah, no, I being in the studio, like these guys were saying, I feel like I having time to kind of focus, you know, in an insular kind of way. I feel like I continue to get better and find more technique and broaden the spectrum of even stylistic things and you know, cultural things that I learned that I think are really cool, you know.
It's amazing because you can sing in the studio without 1,500 people watching you. So there's not a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's a completely different experience too, you know, that. And then, of course, with vocal mics, I've never realized that I don't like any, you know, hi-fi fancy stuff, you know. If you could just get me something that's ordinary, and then I can make all of those sounds myself, and I don't need, you know, any of those effects, because I can achieve something like that, you know. Like a little reverb's fine, you know, and a little compression, but and anything past that I don't think is really necessary.
Well, that's a God-given present you got with that your voice is in a sense an excellent instrument in the band.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and tonight, how do you react on the audience? Is it can you play for? I know you started out for a bar from 12 or 13 persons, and now it's filled up 1,100 tonight. And I read in the bio that you're gonna play Pink Pop this year and Rock am Ring in Germany, which are the real huge one, opening up for Guns N' Roses. So you're used to play for people in front of you, and you have to play for people who are 50,000 people away. Is that a different approach?
Not really. We just turn all the amps up.
Yeah, you just and you throw some mics on the drums.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a matter of kind of showing up and hopefully, if you really are speaking to those people and you're trying to communicate with them, they reciprocate and vice versa. You know, it's like a communication that kind of with an energy in that room or that space.
I always, something else on stage, but I always know if you get a lot, you're always giving more back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like playing catch in that way, where you know you're throwing something out and they'll throw it back at you, and it's just it's such an interesting thing.
It's kind of something that's really crazy about when people get together in mass amounts. Like, look at those revolutions you can see on television and things like that. It's like there's this kind of momentum of energy when you get that many people together, and so those bigger rooms you seem to be getting a lot more energy. It's easier to kind of give it back, as it comes to.
Is it also after the show you have to wind down for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit, that helps.
Yeah, because you're up there somewhere.
He definitely has to wind down.
Yeah, no, the better the show is, the longer you have to wait. I mean, I guess you're just giving more.
Yeah, and he does is real physical, so it's probably.
You can always tell how good the show is because I always take his vest and just wring it out in a cup and how much I get.
my mouth,
You can tell how hot the show
Yeah,
is.
usually if it's like 2 cups, then it was pretty good. But 1 cup, it's like, eh.
Nah, we do better.
And in the United States Cup, it's 8 ounces.
About 8 ounces, yeah.
Well, there was a sort of a burden on your shoulders. I was preparing for the interview, as I was reading some stuff they already wrote about you guys, and they all see you as the torchbearer of the rock and roll. And with a sold-out show in front of you nowadays, or you're now at the start of it, does it affect how you're acting, or are you doing, comparing with a couple of years ago?
There's an intense focus that seems to come about when you realize that there's a lot of people that have high expectations that giving you a responsibility, or you bear some something like that. It's kind of, I think, a focus probably, as a real sincere focus that you kind of are able to hopefully look at it and do what you do to the best of your ability in every sense.
I'm really curious. Is there a master plan behind Greta Van Vliet?
I don't know. Is there a master plan?
That's mostly the question. If you see yourself back in 5 years, where would you be? Is that even bigger stadiums or more produced albums?
It's really important for us to be able to play live, and I think we can still, as long as we're able to do it. And and we're a bit young now, so we can, so we have the ability to do it. And I think that's important for us to be able to speak to the audience and play for the audience and get out and play. So that's something that I think will never, it'll never die down as much. So I believe that, in the years to come, I think that we want to reach as many people as we can. So larger audiences and things like that would be
More
something
people
so we can
to
convey
inspire, and more
the
people
messages.
to have fun with, and something like that.
And if you on that.